trash, where leadership meets grit, safety, and real conversations from the front lines. Here's your host, Tomilynn.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Just a Girl Talking Trash. I'm so happy to have you here with me, listening today. Again, whether you are behind the wheel of a truck, you are walking in the yard, maybe you're out with your frontline team, or sitting in your office, maybe you're driving to work. Again, I am so happy to have you with me listening to another episode of Just a Girl Talking Trash. Now, today we are talking about leadership isn't about building your resume, it is about building people. Last episode, we talked about something every leader should strive for, and that was to never stop being unteachable. You always want to be teachable because the moment we believe we have arrived, the moment we think there's nothing left to learn, that is the moment our leadership begins to decline. But today, I want to take that conversation just one step further because learning isn't the finish line, it is preparation. And preparation for what really matters: building people, building your teams. I want to start by asking you a simple question. When your career is over, when you retire, what do you want people to remember about you? Think about it. When someone else moves into your office, when your name comes off the organization chart, what will people say? Will they talk about your title? Will they remember how many meetings you attended, how many budgets you managed, how many reports you completed? Probably not. But they will remember something much more important. They will remember how you treated people. They'll remember whether you listened, whether you encouraged them, whether you believed in them when they were struggling, whether you made them feel respected. Because here's what I have learned: people rarely remember what you accomplished, they remember how you made them feel. And I think somewhere along the way, we've confused success with significance. We've started believing success is another promotion, another certification, another title, another office. Now, don't misunderstand me. There's absolutely nothing wrong with working hard. There's nothing wrong with wanting to grow your career. I am a big believer in setting goals and continually improving yourself. But if you're doing that just to chase the next position, one day you're going to wake up and realize you've climbed the ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall, right? Leadership isn't about collecting titles. Leadership is about leaving people better than you found them, discovering hidden talent, building unbreakable teams. I have worked for leaders who had impressive resumes, absolutely impressive. People respected the position, but they didn't respect the person. The room became silent whenever they walked in, not because people admired them, because people were afraid to say the wrong thing. That's not leadership. That is authority. And those are two completely different things. A title gives you authority, but your character gives you influence. Influence can't be assigned, it has to be earned every single day. And I have had the privilege of working alongside a leader with more than 30 years of experience. And what impressed me the most wasn't how much he knew, it was how much he still wanted to learn. He still asked questions, he still listened, he still sought different perspectives. That's what wisdom looks like. Real wisdom doesn't say, I already know. Real wisdom asks, what else can I learn? There were two things I noticed about him almost immediately when I had met him for the first time. And the first thing that I noticed about him was his people skills. He could have a conversation with anyone. It didn't matter if it was someone who started yesterday or someone who had been in leadership for decades, if it was a frontline team member, or if it was the people that cleaned the building for us. He treated everyone with respect. And then the second thing I noticed with him was his humility. He didn't walk into a room trying to prove he was the smartest person there. He didn't need to. His confidence came from experience, not ego. One day, we were talking about attending a difficult leadership meeting. And I looked at him and said, that's where I'm still immature in my leadership. He asked, why do you say that? And I said, because I don't know if I could walk into one of those meetings and keep my composure the way that you do. And he smiled and he just simply said, well, I do have a lot of experience. At first, I didn't think much about the statement, but later I realized he had just taught me something I didn't even know that I needed to learn. Leadership isn't about managing people, it's also about managing yourself. Control your emotions. No matter what is happening around you, your emotions are very real, but they don't always deserve the microphone. Reacting is easy. We talked about this in the last episode of how easy it is to react and that responding takes discipline. You know, I bring that up because years ago, when that mentor gave me that advice, I will never forget it. And I like to share that advice with everyone and anyone I can because it meant so much to me when he told me to stop reacting and learn to respond. Sometimes it means asking another question instead of making another statement. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever looked at that way? Instead of responding with a statement, respond by asking a question. Sometimes it means saying, let me think about that and I will get back to you. Because once you react emotionally, you have then surrendered control of the situation. Your team is always watching. They're watching how you react when things go wrong. They're watching how you treat the newest employee. They are watching how you handle pressure. They're watching how you respond when someone makes a mistake. They're also watching to see what you allow employees to get away with. Are you showing any sort of favoritism or is there consistency across the board where everyone is held accountable at the same level, right? The only question is this: what are you teaching? Are you teaching people to hide mistakes? Or are you creating an environment where they feel safe enough to admit them early so everyone can learn? Or are you teaching people to fear failure, right? Are you teaching them how to grow from it? Because mistakes handled correctly become lessons. Mistakes handled poorly then become fear. Another lesson that I have learned is to master the art of silence. I also talked about that in my last episode. Two was that I don't always comment in a meeting unless I have something valuable to bring to the table. Some of the strongest leaders I've ever met are not the loudest people in the room. They don't interrupt, they don't dominate every conversation. They observe, they listen, they process, and then they speak. And when they do, people pay attention. Silence is not a weakness. Silence is often confidence. When you're secure in who you are, you don't have to prove it to everyone else. One of the greatest responsibilities we have as leaders isn't simply just getting results and building revenue, it is developing people. One day, the projects will be finished, the equipment will be replaced, the policies will be changed, budgets will come and go, buildings will be renovated, but the people you invested in, they are going to carry those lessons with them for the rest of their careers. That is your real legacy. Sometimes I drive home after work and I am replaying conversations in my head. I think, I should have probably listened a little bit longer. I think I could have explained that better. Maybe I reacted when I should have responded. Leadership has a funny way of keeping us humble. And honestly, I am thankful for that because the day I stop evaluating myself, the day that I believe I figured leadership out, is probably the day I stop growing. The best leaders never stop learning, they never stop asking questions. They never stop listening. They never stop improving because you can't continue building people if you've stopped building yourself. Another lesson I have learned is this: people don't work for us. So if you believe that your frontline team works for you, that is a lie. We work for them. Our responsibility isn't to make our jobs easier. Our responsibility is to remove obstacles so they, the frontline team, can be successful. Sometimes that's coaching, sometimes that's protecting them. There are times that we are going to protect them. We are going to fight battles behind closed doors that they will never know about. But that is our job. That is what we are here for. And sometimes it is thankless because they don't know the battles that we fight for them. But that is part of real leadership. Sometimes we need to challenge them. Sometimes we need to hold them accountable. Real leadership requires doing all of that because accountability without compassion feels like punishment. But compassion without accountability is not leadership. The two have to work together. Before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final question. If you weren't the supervisor, If you weren't the manager, if you weren't the general manager, would you want to work for you? Would people be excited when they saw your name on the schedule? Would they trust you enough to bring you difficult problems? Would they feel comfortable asking for help? Or would they avoid you until they absolutely had no other choice? Those questions aren't meant to discourage us, they are meant to challenge us because every one of us, including me, has room to grow. And that's why leadership is so rewarding. Every day is another opportunity to become a little better than we were yesterday. And here's your leadership challenge for the week: find someone on your team who has potential. And I want you to pull them aside and tell them exactly what you see in them. Encourage them, coach them, give them the confidence that someone once gave to you, and invest in them. You may never know how much that one conversation changes someone's career or even their life. And I will leave you with this: people may forget your title, they may even forget your accomplishments, they may forget your resume, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So don't spend your career building a resume, spend it building your people, because that's the kind of leadership that leaves a legacy. Thank you for joining me today. And if this episode encouraged you or challenged you in some way, I would be honored if you shared it with any other leader. Because when leaders grow, teams grow, organizations grow, communities grow, and that is how real change begins. Until next time, lead with humility, lead with integrity, lead with your heart. Keep building people and never stop learning. This is Just a Girl Talking Trash, and I will see you on the next episode.